Welcome to 96 Wave. My name is Bryant Thomas, and I'll be hosting the podcast today. A place where we can discuss the unique surf culture of the Lowcountry. Today we met with our friend Richard Prause, a surfboard shaper, father, and a surf-stoked character. This is our first episode ever, so it was more of a conversation than a deep dive. He shapes grasshopper surfboards, and that is where we begin our chat. Thanks for the support, and enjoy. You've shaped so many boards for different characters around here. Do you have a story of someone they came to you, they wanted a certain type of board, and then you've been out in that session with them, an experience kind of?
Yeah, sure. A lot. I mean, that's my favorite thing to do, go surfing with my buddies and make boards together, and, we'll be trading boards and trying different things. I think one person I made a lot of boards with that's been really fun is Cuff. We haven't been surfing together a lot lately, but there was like a time when it was hot. Like we were always surfing together. We were making a lot of boards. We were both really getting into twin fin fishes. I was making like some 4-fin slim fishes and then some like really wide twin fin fishes. And, so I made one that I really liked. I made him one. He liked it. He came back and was like, let's do another one, but let's pull it in a little bit more, make it, I want to rip on it a little bit more. So we did that. It came out, well, it was funny because, the shape I thought was really good. It came back from the glasser. I think the fin marks had gotten glassed over or something, and the fins weren't in the right spot. And so I made these custom fins to sit differently in the box to try and get them there. And it was all in Cuff's head. I swear, Cuff never likes a new board. Every time he gets a new board, nah, I'm not feeling it. It's not good. I just want my old board. And so he didn't like this board at first. And I saw him surfing. I was like, man, it looks like it works pretty good. He's like, no, it's weird. This, that, and there. I'm like, all right, let me try it. So I try it. I'm like, whoa, this is the board. This is what we've been trying to get to with all this twin fin fishes. This is it. I'm like, Cuff, I love this board. Let me just give you your money back and I'll keep it. He's like, wait, just hold your horses there. Let's not do anything irrational. Let me try it again. And so he didn't let me keep it. And he continued to ride it. And he was on a tear on that board for a few years. It was that red one with the black and white stripes on the nose. There's a ton. We had a good run of surf and he was just on it. There's a ton of good pictures of him riding that board. And so, I rode that. I'm like, okay, I got to make myself one. So I made myself one. And the one that I made myself was my first red striped candy cane board. And again, that board, when I first got it, the first sessions on it when we had that is Tropical Storm Colin, that one that just blew up out of nowhere. Everybody got amazing pictures. Justin got a bunch of shots on the surf line. It was just the most beautiful, fun day of surfing at Folly. And that was one of the first sessions I had ridden that board on, and it just clicked. I'm going, this suits my surfing, what I like to do more than any other board I ever had. Just I don't know, I just loved it. It was great. And so that was kind of the collaboration between me and Cuff and looking at, retro fishes, but still wanting to kind of rip, and it kind of all going in that direction.
I feel like a lot of people probably wanted a twin fin after that era of seeing you and Cuff one, but then they can't surf them as good.
It's funny because a lot of people, really good surfers too, get them and they're like, oh man, I love the way you're surfing. Let me try it. I want one of those. And they'll get it and they don't like them because, it's just the way you weight or how you like to do your turns. They don't fit everybody. Yeah. Some people really like thrusters and surf really good on thrusters, or some people's really like quads or hate quads. Yeah. But the twin fins, yeah, I don't know. Those ones just fit me really well, and Cuff really fit him really well too.
It took me a while, and then there was one hurricane season. It was actually when the beach was shut down that I rode a twin fin that you finished. Ellison didn't finish shape.
Ellison shaped, yeah. That we shaped together a little bit.
And then I rode that all hurricane season.
Yeah.
And it was a memorable one.
You kind of clicked into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing digging through the archives of footage I've been noticing is there's a lot of left barrels that I see. I kept talking about what waves were the best, and a lot were lefts. Do you think who's got it better, regular or goofy foot on Folly?
That's a good one. I'm gonna have to go with the goofies on this one, but that's probably just because I'm goofy. I mean, maybe the best surfers on the island are regular foots, but they're really good at going backside. I think, just because we face south, when the waves are coming in from the east, they're gonna bend and go left. But that said, you get those against the grain rights that look so good. I cannot surf them. Every time I see them, I'm like, oh, I'm getting one of those against the grain rights. Today's going to be my day. And every time I paddle in, I'm like, this is it. I'm on it. And then before I know it, I'm like with the lip, getting pitched over, just going, no. And I'm like upside down near the cockroach in the barrel.
That's what I was going to say, that I'm always hunting down the against the grain rights because there's a lot of good air sections and tubes. They're a little bit shorter barrels, but they stand up. But even, regular footers, I was pulling footage and like Francis Saladin's getting drained, but it's on the left.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, who are all the best surfers from back in the day? Glenn Tanner, Todd Youngblood, Blue Spivey. Now it's Kyle Busey. I mean, you guys are regular foot. I mean, all the guys like Will Davis, like all the guys, regular footers are shredding. And the goofy foots are all barrel hounds. They're just like, they don't go right. They just want that barrel because, I think you get those, you get those days when it's good here. It's like a long, throaty left barrel. Yeah. And you get, but the goofy foots here, you can, you'll go, we'll go up to Hatteras or down to South Florida. Or you'll be traveling, Central America or even over in Indonesia or Hawaii or something and run across a goofy foot tube slayer from South Carolina out there getting really good ones. Everybody was think, who is this guy? Like just getting tubed. Like this guy knows what he's doing. It's like from South Carolina. Is there even an ocean in South Carolina? So I mean, with everything with surfing, you can't go wrong.
It's been more and more common that the beach gets shut down, whether it's a hurricane or etc., that when there's swell, the beach gets shut down, but there's stories of guys that they'll do anything to make it out to the beach when the waves are pumping. Do you have any stories? Was it Hurricane Florence?
That was a pretty good one, I guess. So we were surfing Florence like the day before the good waves came and the storm came. It was the precursor to the swell. It was pretty fun, and they were letting people on, but they let everybody know tomorrow no one's getting on. So I was scrambling, trying to find anyone who lives out there, if I could stay with them or if I could get like a letter from someone saying I'm taking care of their house, or if they work on a business out there to like write me a note. And I talked to my godfather, Ed Budoff, who he's another surfboard shaper. He shapes B-side boards now. When I was a kid, it was freestyle surfboards. But he has a place on Folly that he rents out. And I was like, Ed, like, give me a letter saying I'm the caretaker of the house or something. He's like, no, I can't do that, but just go stay there. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that works. So I got another Cuff story, I guess. I got Cuff, Josh McFadden, and every time you invite Cuff to something, he winds up bringing someone else. And so this one was Kyle LaRusso. That's actually how I met Josh McFadden. Is me and Cuff were planning to go somewhere, and he doesn't tell me ahead of time. He's just like, all right, we're ready to go. And he's like, has someone else. I don't even like know them yet, but wind up becoming like really good friends with, whoever he brings. So it was us three. We stayed at Budoff's place. And we woke up in the morning and the waves were kind of a letdown. The tide was weird.
It was small.
Yeah, it was like chest high. Clean, so any normal day that wasn't hyped, you'd be like, all right, there's waves, it's fun. But we were expecting ceiling high dredging barrels. I mean, there's this huge storm right off our coast.
The weather was like, it wasn't bad.
No, it was great. It was going to be an awesome day of surfing, but there just wasn't much going on. They had dredged the sand at the washout so that it wasn't breaking, and everybody was surfing 8th Street, and it was kind of, it was kind of fun. There were some, if it was any other day, you'd be like, oh yeah, the waves are great, but huge hurricane, it was kind of a letdown. So, but eventually the tide changed. All that swell had like washed the sand around, and I went up to 13th Street, and it was like starting to do it. It was way bigger up there, was breaking closed, shallow, barreling. I think I called Justin to come take pictures, and Kellen, who I was surfing with, he works on Folly, so he was able just to be like, hey, I work here, let me on. And then, Cuff and said, hey, come up and surf. No one's here. It's getting good. And right before they came out there, Corey Monk, Keith Meany, and Henry Martin come over the dunes, and they're like, oh, God, look at these waves. It's so good. We found it. And they paddle out. I'm like, how'd you guys get out here? And they had taken, I think, Henry's boat, and they had put in at James Island. And I'm trying to think of the route they came. I don't know if they wouldn't have come out of the harbor and around Morris Island Lighthouse. I think they came the other way, maybe out of the Stono River and up. I don't know. They could have come either way. Either way, there's going to be shoals with huge waves, and they were like in a skiff. So I can't imagine what it looked like at the crossing point. It's sheltered for a long ways, and once you get behind the island, it's sheltered, but there's no way to get to the island without going through some serious shoals. So it must have been pretty epic, that boat ride to get there. And I'm not sure whose dock they tied up to. I don't even know if they knew. I think they just found a dock on the Folly River and tied up and came surfing. And when the tides started going out, they had to go, or else they were going to get stuck.
But it turned on. I saw photos.
Yeah, so Justin got some good pictures that day. A couple other people wound up coming up that day. I think Blue and Hurriali Tom came up when we were all kind of done surfing, and they had like just the two of them by themselves getting the leftovers. Still really good. Yeah.
That's an epic day, though.
It was an epic day. It was like this big. It was like knee high by the end of the day. Yeah.
That's how it goes. The next generation of surfers, you have kids, they're surfing with you now, and there's a huge group of kids that they surf with, the board riders. And you've talked to me about this. We mentioned, are the waves getting worse? But you said it's about perspective, and you're right. What do you think for all those kids growing up now?
Yeah, it's absolutely about your perspective. So, as we get older, see more, the more good swells you see here, your benchmark goes higher. The more you travel and surf better waves, the worse, even good waves here look, as your collective experience grows, the days that used to be so fun are now, oh, well, it's not good compared to my, the experience that I have now. So it's easy to get jaded. It's hard to stay stoked. You got to change your equipment, keep your mindset young and look for ways to enjoy the different conditions. For the kids, my kids and all their buddies, like I love, that's a way for me to change my perspective, is like I get to see, the waves through their eyes. So I take them out now. It'll be a waist high day. A normal day I'd be like, it's too weak to even push me on a shortboard. I might even go to the beach today, but I take them out and they're scared to even paddle. They're like, Dad, these waves are enormous. One hit me and they held me under for so long. So me kind of like being next to them or helping them get into waves, like I can almost like feel the energy from their perspective, been like, I'll just stand here and the wave will go past. But to them, it's, this monstrous thing. So that's good for me. I love seeing all the kids, they're just so stoked. Like we all were, right? And still try to be.
Yeah, we just get jaded. That's a good point. But I mean, it's really, we're all just trying to have fun in the ocean.
Sure. I mean, surfing is a true blessing. I mean, to be able to go out there and enjoy the ocean like that, to have, the community of people, friends that you can enjoy it with, even just to have the free time and the resource to be able to do it. Like most people in the world don't have that luxury. I mean, it really is a luxury, even though the waves here are bad comparative to most places that people surf. It's still, a really awesome thing.
Yeah. You one thing I've noticed, speaking, if the waves aren't good, you've been on, it looks like a 12-foot board. But I'm out there just pumping, trying to get one turn, and you're surfing from jetty to jetty. Yeah. It looks like a blast. Yeah. Is that the gliders you've been shaping?
Yeah, so I've been making, longboards, nose riders for a long time. I'm not very good at nose riding. Like Rutledge is amazing. I can't keep up. These glider type boards I've been looking for. I don't know, maybe this, that, or the other. And I made a couple for maybe some people and for the shop. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to make one for myself. I'm going to put my own tweaks on it for what I like. And that board, it's only 10 feet. Okay. So it's a 10-foot board, but it's very sleek.
Maybe it's the way it sticks out of your truck. There's
8
feet. Yeah,
I have the little truck bed. So it looks really long. Yeah, it's only 10 feet, but it's really sleek, not much rocker. I made it for those sessions that you can have like out at the inlets when it's glassy, ground swell, and low tide, and the waves just roll forever. You don't get that many days that do that, but so it's fun just around the beaches here. But last fall I got one day, and I went out by myself. It's crazy. You look from the beach, there are waves out there. Like, I think there's some waves out there. I'm gonna paddle out there, and you can't even see. It doesn't even look like there's waves. It just looks like shoals, right? And then you get out there, and I tell you, it looks like a California break out there, and no one's out, and you're like a mile out. And if people on the beach could see what it looked like out there, nobody would believe it. But it doesn't happen very often.
Is it just Kai Dillon on a foil and some dolphins out there?
I think he's
some
on
sharks.
Yeah, definitely all of those things. I don't think I've ever seen Kai Dillon on the foil, but he's on his own lonely sandbar. Yeah, there's so many of them around. You can pick your own. Yeah.
What's one of your favorite hurricanes that you've been a part of?
I think my favorite hurricane was Hurricane Bill. But the Hurricane Bill swell is not the best swell in Charleston, but it's like my favorite hurricane swell. It started in Charleston, but it like goes up the coast. It was a huge storm, I think Cat 5, and it took like the perfect trek straight between us and Bermuda and up. And
do you know what year that was?
What year? I don't know the year. I want to say 2010 ish. So the swell, it was kind of a letdown swell here, but the first day I caught some of the more memorable waves I've caught in Charleston. The swell came in with like a hard southwest wind, so it was just long period swell, just closing out, ribbed up, and people were trying to surf, but you really couldn't get a ride. I think Benny B was maybe in town for something, and they were catching some waves near the pier. But me, I want to say, I know Trevor was with me. I want to say Mac McQuillan. There are a few others. I don't remember who was on. Maybe Clobber was on this session. So we, you might have to I don't know. You might have to bleep some of these out to hide the secret spots. But, this spot is not breaking anymore. I'm sure it will again one day, but as of right now, it's not a spot anymore. We paddled over, that year, there was a really good sandbar kind of surfing it on southwest wind on longboards all summer. And, this one, we're like, it's going to be big enough to actually surf like a fish. So we go over there, and it is like waist high, it's like overhead just dumping the washout. It was only like waist high over there, but it was clean on the southwest winds. And we're having fun, catching long rides on the fish. And the tide kept going out, and eventually the wave at the very outside of the inlet got shallow enough to start breaking, and it was like, I want to say knee to waist deep. We were kind of like walking through. I thought for sure someone was going to step on a stingray, but we got out there, and out there it was bigger and like hitting harder. It was actually probably like shoulder high, like pretty crispy, like, kind of barreling rights. And I remember catching one wave where I got it at the outside shoal, through that crispy barrel section, and somehow it linked up through kind of a little dead zone all the way into the section we were surfing earlier. And I mean, I must have been riding wave for I don't know how long, but when I got off the wave, I was like I started like way out at the outside of the inlet, wound up way down. I'm looking for my buddies. They just look like tiny ants, like in the, I get back out there probably takes me 20 minutes to get back where they were. We're like, we thought you went in, like we didn't know what happened to you. Like, did a shark get him? Where did he go? And I did see a really big shark out there, like kind of right where we were surfing. It was pretty sketchy over there. But, we're having fun. And then, that happened. Saw the big shark. I was a little freaked out. Everybody's catching waves. And then all of a sudden the tide started coming back in. Everybody we were with, like, caught, a set came. Everybody caught a wave in the set, got washed in over the bar and couldn't get back out because the tide was coming in so strong. And we're like, great, now what? And luckily someone had just come out with a Carolina skiff and they let us all pile in. They brought us back. And so that was day one of Bill. And then I think that night we drove up to Wrightsville Beach to meet up with my friend Jason. Oh, it must have been Cody. Might have been one of the ones with us because we went up, it was me, Trevor, Mac, Cody, and we met up with Jason in Wilmington. And we were surfing with Jason and Cody's dad at Carolina Beach, and it was huge. Like, I've never seen Carolina Beach that big. It's kind of closing out, not that great. Everybody got a few waves, but then that evening we surfed the jetty at Wrightsville Beach, the South Jetty, and how Ponce Inlet does that thing where it kind of like wedge against the jetty and like keep a wedge from way out all the way in. So Wrightsville Beach was doing that. And I remember Jason was on this tiny little like 5-foot snowboard looking board that he shaped himself doing figure 8 cutbacks, like 8 of them, right? From like hundreds of yards out all the way in. That was day 2. We must have, so I think each day we were like surfing all day, driving all night. So that night we drove up to Hatteras for day 3. We're surfing S-turns. It's pretty unruly. I think my dad and his buddy Bob were already up in Hatteras. They said it looked like Outer Reef, Hawaii the day before when we were surfing Carolina Beach, just like 20-foot offshore, gorgeous, no one surfing. I think he said he saw like one jet ski take someone out there and try and catch some waves at one point. But just, yeah, I mean, you've seen pictures of it when it's like that. It's like a mile out, 20-foot perfect. But so the next day it was kind of, I don't know, the storm had come close and it was kind of junked up. We got some barrels of S-turns. That's when S-turns was breaking good in the morning. And the wind went funky. The water was kind of brown. All the pros were around. And we had to drag Jason away from S-turns. He's like, no, it's good. He's like, he just wanted his picture, because the photographers were there. The pros were like, no, we got to go look around. It's not good here. And we went up to Pea Island. And the wind, was like kind of southwest. And so Pea Island bends a little bit more. And the water up there was clear, green. We found this one spot near the ranger station. I think we parked there, walked, saw a wave down the beach, walked over to it. It was just, how it gets up there where you just have this perfect sandbar with like a channel. I don't know how it happens. It'll happen one day, be gone the next. But it was a little smaller there, but I mean, it's still well overhead, right on the beach. Like every wave A-frame makeable. It's like all goofy foots and like one regular foot. So Mac had all the rights he wanted. We were catching the lefts and everyone was just like barrel, come out and you're like on the sand. And so we surfed like all evening. One of Jason's dad's friends came down with, a long lens. So we have all these professional quality pictures of us that day. The water's green. It's just perfect. And that was like
and that's why you keep chasing that.
That's
every
the dream.
Time a swell comes.
Yeah, I mean that was the dream. It was just our buddies on that sandbar, and it's just just surf all day, drive all night, just get skunked one place but score another, and I think all of us on that trip, that's like probably our fondest hurricane swell, just because that last session was just so good. And, it was just the camaraderie of 5 guys stuffed in a car. I think that 20 boards strapped to the roof. And, catching that sandbar with just your friends, it's like, the dream.
Yeah. You'll have to send me those photos.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of them. I don't have, Jason may have the high res ones. The ones I have, I have a whole folder of them. They're like kind of lower res, but they're good enough to post. Yeah.
That's sick. Everyone says in every spot, does anyone work here? Is like the classic say.
Yeah.
And so as surfers, we're constantly trying to stay available.
Yeah.
If there's a window of waves, how have you been able to
Well, here's the absolute worst because the windows of Swell have got to be smaller than anywhere, except maybe Georgia. It's got to be the only one that's smaller, Hilton Head or something. Yeah, if you want, I mean, we get just like great waves, not very often and for very short duration. So you have to be on it. You got to be a meteorologist. You got to know what the tide, when the wind switch, what everything's doing to get, and you got to be able to somehow drop it all and make it there. Because if you see the waves are good, you've missed it. Like by the time you get there, it's not going to be good anymore. And so, yeah, that's a super hard thing to balance, especially as when you're starting out a family, you have young kids for sure. It's hard to balance. And again, when you're younger and starting out a career or something, like you need to be at work. You can't just leave work and go surfing. You know, I think the people who log the most water time, you know, they know before they start their careers, like surfing is my priority. I'm going to, you know, build my schedule around it. Either I'm going to be a waiter and work at night, or I'm going to do lawns and work on my own schedule, or I'm going to be, you know, real estate and like, you know, make it flexible. I've kind of been like more of a corporate type job. And so I'm just trying to like plan my PTO when I can use it. I'm not as flexible as I want to be, but I've been, you know, I'm older now, so I've been working for a while. So I have a lot more leniency than I did when I was younger. I mean, I feel like I missed a lot of Swells younger, just dealing with all that. But yeah, it's all part of the balance.
Always see you running out at some point of the day.
Yeah.
Whether it's right before dark or not.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have problems like with spouses understanding that like you can't just be leaving us all the time to go surfing. My wife is, you know, we mesh really well. Like we know what each other needs, and, you know, I do my best to, you know, give her what she needs, and she does her best to give me what I need. And she knows that's like a priority for me to be working well. Yeah. So, and I mean, as far as being a single guy, like with, you know, really loving surfing and have a priority on surfing a lot, living here will drive you crazy. Yeah. I mean, when I was younger, I said, you know, I'm leaving here. I'm never coming back, right? My parents had a story. Oh yeah, we were living in Hawaii. I was born in Hawaii. It's like, oh yeah, you were born in Hawaii. I was like, why would you bring me back to South Carolina? Like, you guys were surfing in Hawaii. You knew I would want to grow up and be surfing in Hawaii. Like, why are we in South Carolina? Like, so, you know, I left. I went to college. I bounced around. You know, moved to Florida, moved to Hawaii. Came back. I said it was only for a couple years, and like the roots went in deep. And, you know, when Amy and I started having kids, and, you know, having my parents around and her parents around, and, you know, uncles and aunts and cousins, and everybody's like, you know, so that's when the perspective happened. I'm like, okay, yeah, surfing is, yeah, it's great, but we're really going to like take my family away from all this family so I can surf. You know, my kids might even like surfing. You know, my wife likes to surf, but, you know, it's not a priority for her. And I think my kids are coming up that way too. I don't know if any of them are going to be just stone cold surf dogs. Yeah. Maybe I'm too frothy and it just puts them off. I don't know.
Yeah, I've definitely had that thought, because I'm already thinking my kids are going to love surfing. And they do right now, but
yeah,
they can't even talk.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great, like, role model as a dad to have something that you're passionate about that your kids can see. And whether it's their passion or not, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, we all want to share that passion with our offspring. You can teach them. They'll know. It'll be their choice of whether, you know, it's really, you know, what they want or not.
Yeah. Say your kid does get really, this is a personal question.
Uh-huh.
Say your kid gets good at surfing. Uh-huh. Should you move?
I don't know. As silly as it sounds, like I thought about that a lot. Like, yeah. Oh, I want to be where the waves are good so my kids can have a chance.
That's what I think. Yeah.
But, you know, the level of talent and like single-mindedness that it really takes to become that elite level, you know, I think you have a better chance being a, you know, pro baseball player or, you know, whatever, which, you know, which or a fighter pilot or whatever, which people always say that's not going to happen, right? So I feel like the surfing is even more of a unicorn. So to like base your whole life around hoping that'll happen for your kid, if you don't even know they're gonna like surfing, even then it sounds silly. But
asking the question for myself.
But look at Kanoa Igarashi, right?
Yeah.
So a very, but I mean, how many people have done that and how many people turn out doing that?
Yeah, that's true.
It for nothing else than to get it out. Because if you don't, then it's I never did. What if?
Yeah.
And if you do, maybe you're like, I'm so glad that we got out. And then if not, maybe it gives you the perspective. It's like, wow, we have all this here that I didn't realize I was taking it for granted.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth the pursuit.
Thanks so much for coming on. We got to do it again.
Right.
Cool. Perfect.